I think it was yesterday, it might have been day before, but it was the odd scene of Bloody Gina Haspel, CIA director, lurching into Mitch McConnell's office. Now, you don't see this too often. In fact, you don't see her too often at all. At the very least, I haven't seen her too often in the mainstream media. But in this very specific instance, she's going into McConnell's office. Now, the question becomes, why? One thought was that Donald Trump has just fired Esper, defense secretary, secretary of defense, and have been making moves and putting people in various positions that are more loyalists. Now, there has been a back and forth, and apparently there is a battle, in the way that they describe it, intense battles going on in the White House over the issue of releasing information and how much information to release, especially on the issue of Russia. Donald Trump had been accused for the last 3 years of working with the Russian government, and Donald Trump wants to expose the information and try to get his point of view out that it was a hoax, and not just a hoax, but a politically motivated hoax. Meaning it wasn't, oh, they just got it wrong. It was, no, they tried to take the president of the United States down in a soft coup. Well, Trump has been trying to get that information released. He has some people to help him, like DNI Director Ratcliffe, who was able to tease out information showing that Brennan was talking about Hillary Clinton basically running a Trump and Russia strategy in and of itself in the election, and Brennan having some consternation of it, so much so he wrote it down. So some of the information that came out was mind-blowing. I mean, it was fascinating to actually read into. I am one of those people that is all for this release of information. Many people in Trump's admin are not. Gina Haspel was one of those people that was against Donald Trump releasing the information. In her mind, I don't necessarily want this information released. It may get sources and procedures in ways that I don't necessarily want to disclose. This is fascinating coming from Bloody Gina Haspel, because part of the reason she gets her name is for the black site that she was running, where apparently they were torturing people, and she, being true to form, disposed of the evidence. Disposed of the evidence. Was caught doing it. And now she's like, yeah, don't want this information to come out. William Barr, he also agreed with her that this information shouldn't necessarily come out. Again, pushing back on the White House. You also have apparently people who are in the military or certain intel people who don't want the info to come out. The president of the United States, however, does. And regardless of the pushing and everything else that these people might try to push in order to keep Trump from putting this information out, the president, if I am not mistaken, within his powers, is to disclose that information if the president wants that information disclosed. When Ratcliffe put out the Brennan tweet, Trump kept saying, I'm going to release the information, I'm going to release information. But up to this point, he hasn't necessarily been able to do that. Now, the question becomes, is the president hamstrung? Why doesn't the president have powers to release the information that the president wants to release? Is this just the formality in regards to these guys going back and forth in regards to this quote-unquote battle that's taking place in the White House? Meaning, if Trump wanted to release the information, shouldn't Trump be able to release the information? It's also possible that Esper was fired because of opposing one of Trump's strategies in regards to getting the troops out of Afghanistan. Like, the media is trying to paint this entirely with a certain brush. And it may be that a few things are true at once. It is a bit disconcerting that a president that has just lost a race has all of a sudden decided to reshuffle his cabinet as if he's going to be there for the next administration, putting in loyalists and people that he basically henchmen into various positions. And it is not entirely clear what that means yet. So that's kind of a stay tuned thing. But in the very clear view of things, it does seem like Donald Trump was serious about releasing the information, and that the people who are in his admin, including, again, military personnel, have qualms with him releasing that information. You should declassify it. Why wouldn't you declassify it? If your name is Donald Trump, and they've accused you of working with a foreign power to undermine democracy itself. You came into office with certain aspirations. Those aspirations was going to be conciliatory towards Russia. That country has second most nukes on the planet. Yeah, we don't need to be at war with them. And we don't need to continuously find reasons to red bait. Donald Trump was supposed to be a sort of reset. Well, they used that want of a reset into making it conspiratorial. This Tom Clancy-esque, where Donald Trump is working with Vladimir Putin in order to game the political system. It's nonsense. One conspiracy theory after the next was piled on with media running with it. And then all of a sudden the story comes out about Biden and they're holier than thou and don't necessarily want to cover it. Yeah, your bias is showing. Your bias is showing. I'm just making the point that if your name is Donald Trump and they've called you everything but a child of God and they've used this as a way to delegitimize your presidency, you're on your way out. Why not? Why not? If indeed the information, it's there to get across that they were lying, to get across that this was indeed as politically motivated as it looked, to get across that there were elements of the intelligence that wanted you to lose, then why wouldn't you put the information out? Why is this even a conversation? I understand this notion of saying that, hey, there are sources and procedures, but they always use that as an excuse for issues of, things that they don't necessarily want you to view. That can't be an excuse. Hey, there's information here that I don't necessarily want you to see. And you just got to trust me that, it's not what you think it is. No. If you're the president of the United States and you want to clear your name and you want to indict the various people who are guilty of going after you, what you could call a political witch hunt, expose it. Show it. You had the power to do it. Do it. I understand people may have a certain point of view of things where they don't necessarily want you to do X or Y, but you are the president of the United States. Despite being a lame duck one, you're still the president. And if you want to try to clear your name by releasing that data, then do it. If they need to redact, tell them to do what they need to do, but that data should come out. The American public needs to know the reality of events, right? I mean, you have a large segment of the public that even though they may not necessarily be all that much invested in the Russiagate stuff, Democrats are, they still passively believe that there might have been some interaction between Trump and Russia. And I am making the point that if there is anything, meaning beyond the lawsuits that have been filed, beyond the stuff, the way this stuff has been shot down one after the next, beyond all of that, if there is something else that is lurking somewhere in the files, why wouldn't you show it? What would be your disincentive to show it? Even if you need to give the directive, hey, redact that name or that name, you should show it. The reality of things is they accused you of something that wasn't true. And they pulled a monstrous psyop on the American public for the last 3 years to enrapture this country and to get this country in this kind of rabid frenzy against a foreign power. That will have political consequences going forward. Do you honestly believe that a Biden administration, all of these rabidly hysterical Democrats talking about Russia topple democracy itself with Facebook and Twitter ads, these people are lunatics. And yet, the lunatics are going to basically be running the roost and engaging in foreign powers. And what do you think the foreign policy of the U.S. is going to be in that regard? No, it is in the best interests of America itself for you to release those and declassify those documents. It just is. I get this argument of, oh, you're going to burn our methods. Maybe. I don't entirely take that to be true. Maybe. But Is the larger question more important? And I think that answer is yes. And that larger question being, was this a politically motivated psyop on the American public in order to take down a president of the United States? That is the contention that Trump makes. That is the contention that I agree with. And if Donald Trump has something to make that clear, you're the president. Do your job. Do your job. CIA Director Gina Haspel last month argued strongly at a White House meeting against disclosing the information because she believed that doing so would violate her pledge to protect sources and methods. A senior congressional source said. The official said that a bipartisan group of Republicans and Democratic senators have been trying to protect Gina Haspel, though some fear that Trump may oust her. Yes, if she is running afoul against what the president wants, then yes, just like he got rid of Esper, her head can be on the shopping block also. It's believed that her going to see Mitch McConnell was this kind of way of McConnell showing this kind of tacit support to Haspel. That's not going to matter, especially with Trump, if he is on his way out after all. Yeah, he's going to take a scalp. Rumors have been flying this week about Haspel's tenure, but sources familiar with her standing at the CIA said Tuesday that National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows have both assured her that she's good, meaning she would not be removed. I hear them. I hear them. Let's see. Haspel's most unlikely defender has been William Barr. Right. Barr has also agreed with her that they didn't necessarily want to give over the methods, what they would call methods, but basically they didn't want to declassify the information. At the NSA, Trump team just installed General Counsel Michael Ellis, a former chief counsel to Representative Devin Nunes, a former chairman at the House Intelligence Committee, and locus of pro-Trump arguments that Russia investigation was a poisonous fruit. As the spy agency's chief legal officer, Ellis could be an ally, and Ratcliffe led to declassify information, right? So maybe that's what it is. The question becomes, Donald Trump has lost this race. Outside of some kind of a weird, hand of God trick to pull Trump out of this from the courts or something like that, Trump has lost this race. That's at least what I'm going by until something changes. He has nothing to lose in regards to trying to get information out, especially if that's what he wants to do. He's installing various people in the various agencies that are loyalists and people who, for the most part, will help him in what he's trying to accomplish. Now, the question becomes, what is he trying to accomplish? And does it go beyond just getting information released that he wants released on the Russia issue? It could be very constrained, meaning Donald Trump's point could be, I want this data out, and I want this data in front of the American public in a way that gets across that this stuff was a hoax, and that if they could do it to one president, they could do it to another. That could be the objective. I don't know. I mean, this is one of those things to keep an eye on. But a national security risk? No, it's too often that they use national security as a dodge to basically hide fuck-ups and failures and other issues associated with the way they go about their affairs. Now, I don't necessarily reflexively believe that, and neither should you. They try to declassify everything as a national security risk. In this very specific instance, this country was led down a dark pathway by people entirely for political reasons. And that corridor could have taken us into some really dark spots. I mean, think of some of the things that Donald Trump did in order to push back against the narrative of the Trump and Russia stuff. I mean, giving weapons to the Ukraine, even Obama wouldn't go that far. The sanctions that he was putting on, they were making him put sanctions on for all sorts of stuff in order to basically trying to create a wedge between the two. At one point, he comes back from Helsinki. He has to kind of make this embarrassing apology from the American audience because media said he embarrassed America. Like, it was insane. John Bolton gets the nod in that position as opposed to finding somebody who's less of a Russia hawk. Like, it moderated how he behaved and what he was able to do in that office in regards to bringing down some of the hysteria between the countries, the missile treaties that he yanked himself and pulled themselves out of. John Bolton didn't believe in any missile treaties. So the moment that he gets in, that particular impetus on Trump's push is to not do those things. It's to not come to some kind of agreement. It's not to come to some kind of deal. Yeah, it was the worst outcome because of the pressure that they were putting on him in the domestic front regarding to foreign policy. But I'll leave this here. I don't want to keep this one long. I just thought it was interesting that it does seem like Donald Trump is serious about opening the files, or at the very least declassifying information around the Russia stuff. And it seems that the people that is being put in various spots, people like Ratcliffe, that is DNI, or people like he's putting into defense secretary, or for that matter, if he gets rid of Haspel after all and puts somebody in for the CIA, it seems like people are in various positions that may be able to help him to accomplish the objectives that he wants to accomplish regarding the information that he wants released. And right now, he's getting pushback from two of his cronies, Barr and Haspel. I hope he does declassify this information. I want to see it. And at this point, the American public should also see it, especially if it in any way makes his argument that there were elements of the intelligence working in coordination with the Democratic Party to undermine and take him out of that seat in a soft coup. I want to see it. The American public should be able to see it. They should be able to put their eyes on it. Why shouldn't they? That information shouldn't be hidden from us if that information is there. So, not a fan of Trump by any measure. But on this, yes, I am more libertarian on this stuff. I would prefer that information out than not. Like, share, and of course, subscribe. Thanks all.